Hey,
Hey David,
hey, sorry,
how's
I
it?
have not used Zoom uh in a long time,
Oh,
apparently.
feels the same way for me. No
Oh, well,
worries.
that's good. Are you okay if I record this? I'm not gonna.
No problem, no problem. All good, man.
Okay, well, I
Yeah,
appreciate that. I just have maintained a habit of
keeping
um
conversations.
yeah, I did it a long time ago before it was acceptable and never said anything. And it's not that I experienced any consequences from that, but yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I hear that 100%. 100%. I used to be the same with because I used to do a lot of sort of collaborative stuff in community in my previous role, and it's like always just good for both people. So you've just got a record of like what you
yeah,
like, you know.
yeah. God, the stuff that I used to do to keep stuff. So I wanted to say actually, um, so how much do you know about Anchor? About what happened with Anchor?
I know. So for starters, like what I know of you is a very small but intriguing
Yeah,
presence on
uh,
Beam. But yeah, Anchor and Anchor version 1 as well is something that I'm kind of well aware of, and know a few people who either spend time on there now or have spent time on that earlier
yeah.
version and now. I'm guessing, are you still active on Anchor too?
So Anchor is not really a community anymore. I mean, it is Spotify's
Yeah.
podcast infrastructure actually. Yeah. Um, the only reason I bring this up is I realized that you know what, if I was if I was participating in launching a social audio network and didn't know the story, it's actually a really important one. I think, well, I hope at least at some point in history people will care about it, and I happen to be really more adjacent to it than in a notable way than anyone. Like they reached. Okay, so I did this spent my 20s trying to launch an independent online magazine for electronic musicians. And doing that, of course, is a lot of putting stuff out and like speaking as if people are listening when they're not, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And they were the first people to cold contact me based on some crazy shit that I put on Anchor. Uh like I don't know what it was, but it was probably stupid and insane and like I love breaking stuff. So I'm much more conscious about it now, which is appropriate but like clipping audio is still like that is the basis of comedy to me. So I used to just that's my thing. I pop in everywhere and just make a profile. I have a database of all of my profiles across social networks that everyone acts like is a really big deal, but it's I don't know. Anyway, that's how I found Beams. I just try every single thing that
Yeah.
I ever come across. But anyway, so the fact that it was pretty wacky whatever I'd put it like out, and I forget her name. I think it was Maya. I should know her. Like and she was like, "Hey, do you want to launch our music category with your channel being the number one?" Uh, and I was like, notably, thanks for cold contacting me, but also, did you listen? Did you actually listen to what I put on there? Because it was bonkers. Anyway, I was working at a gas station overnight and putting up mixes from my phone. Um, I mean, I had a blast, but there was no one listening. I still have the
Yeah.
chats. Notably, I just went on Beams and uh like gave it an actual uh poking around, and you guys have definitely already gotten significantly further than Anchor's original reimagining radio ever got. Because notably, because there's the once upon a time open sentences, that thread, like
Yes.
that is a very cute thing that you could, that I would put in an advertisement. And it's like it's notably from what I can tell anyway, from what I heard, diverse, uh, in some, and cute and clever. I got really sad listening to that because I realized that no, we never actually. I don't think I could point you to a specific example of that on Anchor. We never got that far before something happened, and well, yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. I want to hear more from you, but I realized that I might actually have some valuable
Yeah.
shit. What they did that was notable, of course, is they built a cloud-based digital audio workstation, basically, that works reliably, and clearly it works reliably at scale.
Mm-hmm.
Because so when you ask, am I still on Anchor? I utterly despise Spotify, and it's the only thing that I actually am a card carrying activist against. And there's reason for that, but but I still publish there, and it's because it's free, and I'm like, it's one of those places where I'm very willing to use as much of their infrastructure as I possibly can. Not that it's like a big, so that's my explanation for still publishing there. But anyway, I can literally just, it's so easy to publish there. That's the thing. And they definitely accomplished their second big thing, which was the easiest way to make a podcast. And like, honestly, if you go and poke around, oh my, I wish I could show you my account, because my legacy account, they took every single file that I'd ever uploaded, and a lot of those were duplicates because of the way it was originally designed. I don't think they accounted for their, like, they had it just copying. Well, I never saw the back end, of course, but like, I wish it had been an open source project. That would have been incredible. Basically, like, my library has to be gargantuan, and it works, and I can pull shit. I just went and found some of my very first broadcasts from the old app, and they're still in there. And the fact, what it really is, actually, the advantage is they just took care of publishing. Notably, you couldn't get a podcast on Spotify without reaching out to them. There was no formal application process, obviously, because I don't think they'd actually implemented a backend for that yet. But and then all of a sudden, man, even if I've said this to people who actually, I know a lot of people who have been professional audio people for a long time and done and like make a living doing podcasts, and usually it's not like shows that they've had a long time, but anytime they start up something new, fuck, Justine, she just puts all of her shit on Anchor, which once like big time people doing that, you know it's a good resource. That the problem is, not to be too editorial, but like, we now have that resource right at the time where regular people are not actually encouraged to make podcasts. But I have a lot to say about what we need another term, because
this is something I was thinking as well, which is like the positioning even around beams is changing. And originally we had this micro podcast sort of description, and like, interestingly, that doesn't make, it's not intuitive, and like, it doesn't make sense for someone who knows podcasting, is comfortable with podcasting. The experience doesn't match that. For people who aren't, which is kind of also the sell, which is like lowering the barrier to creation for podcast, the experience doesn't match that. What it's more akin to is like conversation through voice memos rather than what you would call a podcast. They're two very different things, and I think we have to adjust that expectation. I guess one of the questions there is like, does this solve a problem in the same way? You know, as you said, Anchor's proposition to make it super easy for anyone to be able to do that solves a problem.
To publish, yeah, specifically, yeah. Actually, like, Anchor doesn't do anything else now. That's it. Yeah, and if their original ideas about reimagining radio were so good and cute, what I wanted to say is, so this whole social audio thing has been, one, completely bizarre as someone who has, for my entire adult life and then some back, I have listened to podcasts regularly. When I was 14, I was listening to podcasts regularly. It is a very weird situation, and it's not even like I was doing it before. It's like now it's like, and my mom's like under the impression that it's a new medium, and I don't think there's anything constructive about me saying otherwise. So anyway, but anyway, your guys's, for one thing, your app is gorgeous compared to, I've literally downloaded like, at one point I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go down the list of all the social audio apps that I can find that just, and it was like almost 24 or something. At that point, I don't understand feature duplication at that level. I literally don't understand why people do that. But for one thing, I love your branding. Beams is a perfect name for describing like, and God, there's people really do settle for very not thoughtful names for services that they then invest a lot in. Discord being one of them. But not that Discord wasn't amazing, but oh yeah, what I was, you're as someone who, I guess I've made my whole adult thing is I basically fuck around with software, and I for whatever reason seem to do it sometimes it's to like in a stress test case. I've now like formalized that and tried to be productive with the skills that I have learned in fucking around. But your app is, for one thing, the playback bitrate is higher, from at least from what I'm listening to, than certainly any of the clones. And I don't know. Clubhouse is, I believe, technically they're the ones that you can get the highest bit rate in a social audio channel right now for free. But I really just, that project is so incapable of innovation, and yet everyone around them is like telling them that they're so innovative.
Yeah,
that's just such a disastrous thing.
yeah.
You're okay, so you're distinctly, Beams is set up for people to have fun with the medium of audio in a way that I only have ever experienced before in Anchor. And not that I haven't given Beams the go through that I need to, but the fact that I can see that people are screwing around with it. That's what I really care about. I don't want to. That's indicative of something really big, because getting people to screw around with something that aren't me, I've noticed, is really hard for people to do. Because every time I pop in on a project, I'm fucking, and within like an hour or two, I've tried every single thing that people are usually like, "Whoa, you're incredible! You're an incredible user." I'm like, dude, I just came here and I push every button that I see, and I don't care if, you know. Yeah. Well, that's not.
Yeah, no, that's also like super like useful. And at this stage, I think we're at this, to give you some context. So
yeah, I need to hear your story, hear stuff from you.
Yeah, no, just quickly, because I think this is a great conversation. But like as an intro, yeah, I guess Beams has been going about 2 years, but the actual audio pivot happened in March. So before then, we combined audio, pictures, and it was more of a trap. Basically, the initial idea was a travel app. So you'd create these lists where people could add pictures and audio around a country or a city.
Please do that someday.
Yeah, I mean, I still think there's a lot of potential for this kind of cross-border, whether it's leaving memories that are like geotagged through audio could be cool, but also just this idea of like cross-language, like communication, collaboration, which is really exciting. But basically, because of coronavirus, because people couldn't travel, it wasn't a feasible idea. And so we made this pivot to audio fully. Now, initially, we started with like quite a simple formula, I think, like which was basically just like single beam, like one sort of thread of conversation.
Mhm.
Anyone can add to it. That's it. And like quickly realized like there's something, but we haven't validated any of our like assumptions with just this. We need to do a little bit more. And
You were
so
100% original with using the term thread, by the way. Like that is just in terms of what I've seen, and I have seen a lot of shit. I have never seen audio threaded like you guys do. I think that's something very valuable.
yeah, it was such an important shift to even make those. I mean, I wouldn't say it was a complete success, honestly. Like, well, nothing ever is, but I wouldn't say it was even a partial success in the
You aren't
sense
allowed to
that,
use those terms this early.
yeah. And I think it was more about the association and the actual implementation. But basically, where we're at the moment is like we have like a small but pretty engaged like community who are coming back like every week and creating great content. I think the people is the bottom line of this, like the stories that we
Mhm.
hear on Beams. Like I might be biased, but I do spend a lot of time on the other apps as well. And I think one thing we really wanted to cultivate was this bring curious people to start
Yes.
conversations that other people are like, oh wow, I never would have asked that, but I actually want to join that conversation too. So it's less about friend groups and more about bringing cross-pollinating on common interests and
Yep.
experiences, things like that. And so the move that we're now making, we're now moving towards, and actually in a in a bit, I'm gonna try and get it up on my phone. I'll show you like the designs of kind of V2, I guess, which is what we're working on right now. Like
That's
the main
exciting.
the main focus is to reduce the feeling of loneliness on the platform because we haven't hit that critical mass where there's enough organic on the platform that people keep
Yeah.
coming back daily. And so for us, it's like, how do we get people to find other people who, they're gonna
Yeah.
kind of connect and find common ground to talk? And so basically we're moving towards this sort of group focus where a beam is actually a group and then each thread inside there is a conversation. So you could
Okay.
have a group about eating out or like eating out in a city, and then anyone could start a thread within that. So you've got this group, this kind of hub, which is a container for all the conversations. The
Yeah.
other the other big change is going to be that for a while, I mean, I guess like this is one of the things when we first started, we had this like vision of basically creating a platform that took away all the things that make you groan about like social media, like the things that are just tiring,
Mm.
things that are mentally exhausting around social media. One of these, which was a bit of a controversial one at the time because we were quite split, was follows. We were like, no, we don't want anyone to have a
Mhm.
profile. We don't want anyone to, we
I
don't,
noticed that. Yeah.
beams are basically like crowd created by one single person, but no single person owns the beam.
Because I'm
Now,
interested in the subject, not necessarily interested in the personality. Yeah. Okay.
exactly. So now we've kind of moved a little bit. I wouldn't say we've moved away from it because essentially the group, which is the beam, is still the focus. But what we found is like as people are now starting to collaborate and meet each other, they can't find a way to keep track of other
Yep.
conversations that person's having, and there is, beyond vanity metrics or validation metrics, to have a hub, a single space where you can one, follow along with other conversations that person's in, but second is like a container set for them to separately add notes that don't live in a group. So you've got this open
Mhm.
space, kind of your page that you can post on without it being connected to any other conversations. So reducing loneliness is the biggest thing that we're trying to do right now. The
Yeah.
second is like reduce the amount of steps it takes someone to find content, because right now it's like 3 taps to discover something where
Sure.
you open TikTok, it's in your face like right away, like you shouldn't have to spend so long with discovery. Or
So like I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
no, go ahead, please.
I've
Yeah.
realized recently that I might actually be an authority on social software. Like legitimately, I don't know anything about life. I know something about cars. I used to do that professionally, but I realized, and this is kind of that I don't actually experience that thing where I see content that I didn't want to see. And it's because I know how well. My entire adult social life has been with people all over the world, largely collected on Twitter. That's the only reliable way to keep up with them. I've tried to move them to different platforms. And that's too anecdotal. What I wanted to say is like, one, if I were right now, if I were to just looking at what I'm looking at, not knowing anything about you guys, about your organization, I would want to have a feed that's every single beam, and not have it be like one of 3 tabs or anything, but have that feed be discoverable somewhere in the app. The one thing that I have learned, and I know it's going to sound ideological, maybe it is, or maybe it's wrong in the TikTok era, but the more tools that you give users to take control over the way that they consume content, in my opinion, complexity does not matter, and that's the big misunderstanding that we have had. Look, it would be ridiculous if I did not know every single thing about Twitter at this point, having used it every day for 12 years. And like, when people get interested in something, and I know this because I've seen the evidence on Periscope. I saw people that never used any other social media software ever. Literally, there was a huge community of like 40 something single, or not single, childless wives that didn't work. Stay at home wives on Periscope. And I actually had, when Twitter shut Periscope down, they did not tell those people. And it was a big, it was one of the most negligent things. It's like, it legitimately, like, I had to stop because I was getting too emotional about it. But anyway, what I was, and I guess that one really easy way to do that is to just show everything that's happening. And it's not just because you're at a scale where that wouldn't be like overwhelming. It's because, like, I don't know, that sense that you're alone on a piece of software, like, or on a social networking service. I know that is a very powerful thing. To me, it just seems so avoidable by having an everything feed, even if you don't prioritize it.
Yeah.
But I know that's also from an infrastructure standpoint. What I was going to say is have that on a desktop app.
Yes. That's a great point, which we actually we just finished testing, but basically you can log into Beams and listen from desktop now. And it's interesting, right? Because I kind of see these two audio communities that have kind of splintered off, and people do fall into both, but Racket and Spaces folks live in kind of a different area to like Soundwave and those kind of apps.
I have a lot to say about Racket, but yeah.
Please hit me, because out of all of them, Racket was the first one that I was like, okay, so forget platform parity, because we were like, desktop is not a substitute for Android, but we'd heard lots of times, hey, a web version, it's inclusive for everyone, it's really great. So I thought I'd check Racket out. I thought in terms of the content, it was a level better than what I'd seen on a lot of the short form audio, but I'm not sure if that's due to the time. They've just had more creators on there. They've got longer, so it's the nature of the content is different anyway.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a little bit more aspirational content-wise than some of the other, again, like Lima, Riff, Soundwaves. You kind of
you know what you're talking about. I should do it. Yeah, I have only seen the list, downloaded them all, and been like, why, guys? But Racket, so actually, notably, so I'm part of. I don't know if you've ever heard of Write As or Write Freely. It's a CMS.
No, I'm not.
It's fairly, but anyway, like, basically the CEO of the CMS that hosts my blog. That's basically who he is. He's like a god to me. He's like my I mean, I would love to be like, you're my dad. I love to talk to him every day, but I don't because I feel like I overwhelm him a lot. That's like my discovery of Racket was he shared a link of someone asking him about Write Freely. And it was the founder of Racket, who and I should say, I've never made money from software. I never made money from a business, but just, I guess I was just a really experienced user, maybe. I don't know. And which is not where I intended to end up, just being someone who is known for using social software a lot. But
well,
like it's a thing though.
Yeah.
And then like I signed up and he immediately like sent me a message, which I know that's really thoughtful. But like his conversation notably with Matt was him missing the point over and over again. And I, not in just like, because he just kept talking, like bringing up scale, which Matt is like, one of the reasons I look up to him is he's been doing an open source thing for a long time. And he just has so much more patience with explaining himself. He's also the only person that, like, one of the very, very few people that has privacy and decentralization centric ideas that aren't bullshit and actually result in like nice, easy to use stuff. But and he just that, and I don't, that's all I really know about it. I signed up for it, and I just like, and immediately I saw publishing tools. That's the other one, big thing that I wanted to communicate to you. And you know this already, but like, as someone who I love recording and exporting, I just do that for everything I have. But that infrastructurally, like my big question about all those new social audio apps is who like sets out to take this burden of infrastructure on? Who wants that burden of infrastructure? And being really careful about it. I'm involved in the as a tester of this service called WHYP, WHYP.it. It's literally hosted on a virtual Linux server somewhere, but I interviewed its creator, and it's replacing Clipit, which was a service for musicians to share unfinished audio with each other. I don't know if you ever heard of Vocaroo. That's the real original. But WHYP is 320 kilohertz per second, flat out playback on web, anywhere on any device. Which I made fun of him at first, and actually, like, really was like, dude, you can't do this. But having lived with the platform and used it extensively, oh my god, it's so, you really forget what uncompressed audio playback sounds like regularly in your life living in 2021. However, what I wanted to say is you guys have the balance in terms of the right quality. And that's something that like so many like media streaming apps and projects that I've seen can't get. Racket is one of them that they've immediately opted too low for bitrate, which is what I would do if I wanted to make money, obviously. But yeah. And like, I think WHYP still probably is opted too high if there's ever going to be to scale, right? But like, what has to be ruining it is attempting to become a publishing tool. So as someone who, I'm the type of user that would benefit from that, don't attract people like me. I guess don't optimize for people like me.
It's a different motivation, right? Like, I feel like the motivation for someone who is maybe looking, because that's the thing as well, like sound quality, you get some compliments from people, but generally they're people who've worked in the pro audio space, they've hosted, they've spent time on kind of longer form audio content.
It's just, it's bettering everyone else's life without them even knowing it.
Yes, exactly, because then people plug in, like, I don't know, like AirPods Pro or something. They're like, oh, wow, it sounds like this person's sitting next to me. And like,
oh yeah, for God's sakes, don't do the spatial audio thing. That's what Clubhouse just did, which is, I mean, given the nature of stereo, it is just a funny thing too, because of course stereo sound is already spatial.
Yeah,
It's for, that's the thing for me, and it's also not an actual protocol. The actual protocol is Dolby Atmos, and if you go to Apple's website and look up documentation for spatial audio, the link they provide is an Adobe PDF that does not acknowledge Apple's involvement whatsoever. I just find that funny because, I mean,
interesting.
Dolby is like, I don't know, like, okay, it's just not a real thing. But yeah, like also we're still using cellular phones. But yeah, like I think you've got the best balance that I've seen, which is for a social rather than a and it's I think that because notably because I just coming across, like, it's not really, I'm so used to putting out content, not expecting anyone to listen to it, I think. And now, of course, like you reaching out, that's not me throwing up a single thing is not, I don't know. That's not how I want to, go about stuff. But I'm just blabbering on at this point. I'm sorry. But
no, sorry to cut you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
How many employees do you guys have right now?
We're a team of 18 at the moment, mainly dev.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people for what you're trying to do.
It is. It is. I mean, we basically like have had this sort of, we're quite a big team for quite a, small app relatively.
How many are like editorial and community people?
Me and then one other part-time community manager.
And so everybody else is working on the iOS app?
So 2 product managers, everyone else is working between web and iOS or business operations. So like all that kind of stuff, like legals and all that kind of
I shouldn't actually say anything, but like, I don't know, man. If I was doing it, I would just be like all editorial people, one dev guy, because all the shit for this shit, like if you can throw together like, sorry, a media streaming service with purely open source libraries and like the worst configured cloud infrastructure, and still outdo everybody else. That's just, I would not. But your iOS app is so gorgeous compared to everything else. That's
would you say the content is the king really for something like this? Because I feel like as a listener, right, like one thing is, I mean, the main reason we don't have a bigger community team as well is because of volume, right? Like, as I said, we're not even at the point where we can necessarily be like, okay, we want to run a huge editorial campaign around this theme, or we want to go for this, like,
yeah, because it feels like you're delusional, right? Yeah. Yeah. No, I should note, I don't like like right now what you're doing is, especially because everyone else at least will insist that the press, and I'm so sorry, I'm going to apologize on behalf of the tech press, even though because they're so bad at acknowledging genuine innovation, and if you ever do get significant press coverage, or if you have, I'm sure all it's going to ultimately say is that you're a clone of, it's going to lob you in with a clone of Clubhouse, which you've already innovated beyond, in sorts like, dude, I do not know like what decisions lead to a successful company. I know that I have hyper focused on the ones, on like specifically, I spent a year of my life just digging into Bandcamp. And I don't even mean having conversations with Bandcamp employees, because that was a specific thing I didn't necessarily want to do. I just mean everything they've ever done. And like, that company was run out of a public library until 2017. They are a for-profit, like independent audio publishing company that literally invented the tool that everyone else used originally for tagging audio files with metadata from in the cloud. Of course, it wasn't in the cloud then, but
Yeah.
And they just and no one ever says anything about them, and they literally just do good shit that benefits people and them. They are like the narrative that doesn't work in any other sense about capitalism being beneficial for everyone, except they just do it. And they're like their problem with diversity, like nobody even had to call them out, and they just start investing in anyway. And
honestly,
I don't even want to praise them. It to me at this point, it's almost like a scientific thing. Like, why did that happen and work? And like, then how can Spotify work and have so many people insisting that it's great? Okay, I don't know if you like. I haven't noticed that Vox Media's brand survey, which I don't give a shit about normally, but like Spotify is one of the best like tech brands among most people generally, which is so, having seen the numbers written about them, not even basically Spotify is the opposite of a place to go discover music. And that's all that they say that they are. And that's the only problem. And it is so wide. Anyway, I don't know. I have no idea what I would do if I had that amount of people, like, and a community, because I just can't tell you what's going to quote unquote work. What I can tell you is how to at least be remembered as something, is a company that I don't know. I guess
where do you think? I'd love to know from your like personal sort of like journey through audio as well. Like basically, and maybe this is from like other people that have collabed with in the past, things like that. Like when Anchor version 1, it feels like, and I heard this from someone else that I was chatting to the other day. They were saying, it feels like since that closed that there hasn't really been a place for that crowd to reconvene and do what they were doing on that app again. Would you say
definitely not
a place that crowd has like just dispersed or tried to make something else work, like a different platform work? Or is it, do you think?
I don't know if it was big enough to even worry about it, honestly. I did not see, as someone who so I was the first channel in the music category on an audio, and I literally published every day for a while. I was like I worked at a gas station. I worked nights at a gas station, and I had my laptop in the back, and I would just go. All my friends are electronic musicians, by the way. So that's and I would just go try to toss together a curation, and I would notably be like, please call in, because that was a big thing, which was calling it. Literally, total number of in-app responses I got was less than 5 across a whole summer at least of doing that almost every day. So, and that doesn't necessarily mean there weren't people on it, but it certainly wasn't big enough that you would save yourselves by nabbing that community. Have you heard of Byte? This is unrelated. Byte, it was the guy that made Vine. He just made another Vine. It was originally called V2, and then it became Byte.co, a very vibrant community that existed I literally, the other day, we hadn't heard anything from any leadership or management or anyone in almost 18 months. It was literally being run by the community well, in terms of moderation. It was just, for me, it was just TikTok that made sense, because being from the Vine era, it just, and the other day, I saw the app update. That's how I found out. It was Byte is now called Clash. And I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know who bought them, because literally the community that I met there, all the content that I posted there, I literally just deleted the app. I don't want to ever see it again. I don't know. I guess really the reason that I was so like critical of you guys as a abstract on a list of social audio apps. It's just, if anything, that is not what I would do right now. However, you already have as much claim as anybody. Honestly, I can't think of nobody else in audio, because Clubhouse has just become this utterly bizarre thing where people go to ask each other, is God real? At 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. Yeah, that's Clubhouse is so alarming in terms of what happens there. Discord stages, they just shut down. They just made Discord stages discovery go away. Like the other day, I was like, did I just miss the button? And then I kept looking for, I was like, and then they didn't even put up a blog post about it. It just went away.
Just went. And I think more people noticed than expected. I mean, I know, like, I've been using the audio rooms in there, the chat you can do for ages. And I know even for like Q&As and stuff like that, I think people think it's used less than it actually is. Like,
oh, well, yeah. I mean, I launched my company on it in 2015 and was like, this is Slack, except it's free. And then I kept saying that over and over again, and everyone was just like, well, and I really advocated for it because it was, I mean, when I say launched a company on it, I just, from the very beginning, I knew that was going to be the number one hub, right? It was Slack. And then all of a sudden now I'm in a billion different Discords. And every time, the other day, someone did that thing that I didn't even know you could do, where they looked up my account age. They didn't answer my question. I popped in and I asked a question, but they just did a like exclamation point account. And my account is like 7 years old. And they were like, oh my God, like, where did you come from? And I'm just like, dude, I've just been here. I cannot, like, Discord has done nothing in terms of software infrastructure. They haven't even implemented the most basic accessibility color changes. The other day, I had to explain to a new Discord user who is low vision. Dude, there is no solution that does not, one, immediately just break the terms of service, because they're a third-party shit, or two, that actually work in any substantial, like the third-party shit is too janky. Sorry, I should not get on that subject, because Discord was one of those things that I was the guy that was like, dude, there's this thing, and I can generate a link, send it to a 85-year-old Tuskegee Airman over a text message, and he can click it and then accept microphone access. And all of a sudden I'm in a room with him where he can speak and I can listen and I can record, that's at 256 kilobits per second. And that just did not exist for someone who is interviewing people remotely or hosting podcasts remotely. Like, literally before that, it was, you had to have a Ventrilo server. And so it was so magic for me that, and now so it's just like
for interviews. Were you using it for interviews with people, just sharing the link?
Because it used to be primarily designed to be in the browser, and it was not by default, but it was like one setting I could configure it that Tuskegee Airman did not even have to make an account. And of course, like, the thing is, there's no way that they could have profited off that. That's just that's something that capability, I would even argue, should not be free. That's a professional tool. Like, unfortunately, nothing has ever replaced it. I notably do not, actually, so this is something you might empathize with. I lost all of my equipment due to this one happening in my life in 2018. Like 5 external hard drives, all of my computers, I mean, all of my microphones, all of my audio interface stuff. It's not something that I really, now I just try to make, but dude, not having a good microphone has been so weird. And like I have an iPhone 12 Pro Max, but my Zoom H2N, which was at this point, I could go buy one, but it's literally like a 25-year-old design, just a thing with five microphones that you can have at different configurations. I miss that. so
Yeah.
much. But that's the thing, is that's never going to happen for any at scale. Like audio recorders are never going to be in people's hands at scale. The my
Yeah.
utopia, where that, well, maybe it's not even a utopia. I don't know. Like we're all doing shit with our phones, and that's just going to be it, I guess.
But
Notably, have you guys? I don't know. This is an iOS development thing. iOS just developed, or Apple just implemented audio enhancements in the form of what they called mic modes. And it was initially just in FaceTime, which I think that they realized that was fucking stupid. But that is gonna fuck your iOS developer's life up pretty soon if it hasn't already.
I don't think the shit's hit the fan with that yet, to be honest.
I don't
think it's been.
I'm all over the
I
place.
don't
I'm
think it's
sorry.
impacted. No, it's on the radar. It's on the radar. And someone mentioned it the other day. It's not hit yet, or it's not affected yet. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
next day, which would be Monday for us. I don't know if it's a bit later down the line, but yeah, that's gonna be some serious
yeah.
some
Well,
serious.
I guess all I have to say is I don't know, man. That's such a hard thing to do right now, is to be where you're at. However, you're also like, I guess actually it succeeded already in the sense that you have a blatantly original design. And if there's anything I know, it's genuine originality immediately. That sounds really presumptuous, but in an actual software sense,
No,
like, yeah.
as a first impression, like I think it's really good to know. I think if you were looking at, just for a second, if you were to put your most sort of critical hat on around beams, especially being part of this with social audio, I think you kind of touched on it, which is like the utility of it. It's a fun, nice thing. Does it solve a problem? Is a different question. But I'm saying too much. I would love to hear through your critical eye, like what things do you, for you personally as well, but also
Well, no, I mean, for one thing, that's why you definitely have just put significantly more thought than literally anyone else. I could say that definitively. I don't know what Clubhouse is doing, but they're like those sorts of people with those sorts of companies. I just don't know how they spend their time. I know that they have these conversations internally, but I mean, it must, frankly, I guess if I could just sum it up, I don't think they use their own services, or at least,
yeah.
Anyway, but the threads thing, I think, is like a specifically, me personally, I have only recently been able to like actually have any sort of success on Reddit. I used to think that I was very funny and in describing it as the Read It website. For like my whole life. I'm not a very nice person, nor was I a very detail oriented person for my whole life. And I thought that was a value of some sort, but it was actually just me being an asshole. So that's notable. But me personally, I'm an outlier. And so I don't think you should want users like me. And on that note, I think the threads thing is a good idea, because I would imagine it's providing people like the sort of guidance that sort of the average user needs to have. And I mean, obviously, I'm just going to praise that. I'm assuming that you have zero intention to invest in any sort of algorithmic discovery, which if you note in like Twitter Spaces case, I mean, I would argue across all mediums, it's completely useless. But in audio specifically, like, because we're just not there where anyone's going to be like actually including a transcript in the metadata of any of these things, right? Except for the podcast applications, which are notably failing to do so.
Weirdly, we already have started. So basically, we automatically transcribe the messages now.
That's the other thing. That is I want like that's such a I'm just have now become a person who considers accessibility, and my main project right now could be considered an accessibility project. Uh, the thing about transcription is what like your challenge is going to be manifesting that in a way that is making sure that it's clear only for people who are I don't actually know the proper term. I know that low vision is the proper blindness term. I don't want to say hard of hearing. Uh like but the one advice that I would have for you is to find as soon as possible someone who is either deaf or deaf adjacent. Find that user and don't like I mean, well, I would say
Yeah.
just hire
And
them, but like literally hire them because the one thing I've discovered, they make their own solutions, and I don't to a degree that's like those communities just make their own solutions and don't tell anyone else, which they not that they're obligated to, but the fact that they assume that they're going to have to is one utterly unacceptable in 2021, but two leads them to produce stuff. I'm just discovering this in terms of the Apple Viz community, which is a very visible, and it is astonishing the level of stuff that they do. Anyway, how I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't even have a vague concept of what that costs in terms of infrastructure to transcribe shit. But I guess if I were you guys, the only people that can make use of transcription are those people and journalists or people who are using it in a utilitarian sense, which legitimately I would stay away from, just because they have so many other solutions, and as soon as you give them those tools that seem like no-brainers, like the ability to export as a video, like all of a sudden your narrative, like you're risking the narrative becoming that you're just for professional users. Anyway, but like I would put a button that's like, do you want to transcript this, and then it doesn't generate it by default, but then invest in the accuracy of when it is opted in for. And I don't even know if I would necessarily put that button on the publisher's side. But that's probably not, I don't actually know. But that's very, because like the fact that you've considered that just means that you're thinking more about people who use your service than, again, clubhouses.
I think I would get back. You have to start it. I've worked in companies before where I worked for Monzo for 4 years, and it's like building backwards for accessibility doesn't work. You can't dismantle everything you've already done.
That's insightful. Yeah.
And so I think even if we decide not to do anything right this minute because we're juggling 5 different priorities, we have like a foundation now that we can pull in and start to. And I totally agree. I think it makes total sense for us to, on an almost consulting basis, speak to people within the accessibility community. Both from low vision and from sort of hearing impaired folks, because they do have it's a community, right? And it's quite a closed community for good reason, and there's a lot of assumptions that we make that I think would be completely shattered by just having a conversation and a testing session.
There are a bunch of there's one podcast that's done by this organization called Double Tap Canada, and it's just blind media people, blind tech media people. Actually, no, it's like Double Tap itself is a podcasting company, except they're actually a radio company, of course. So they're like Gimlet now, but just blind people, just blind presenters. And they have a tech show, and it is really the most, I don't know, it reminds me of when I actually enjoyed technology media. But actually that question is where I'm at right now in terms of, I just met a guy who every year writes the most comprehensive documentation I've ever seen for any operating system, notably, but for iOS. And when I say comprehensive, I just cannot communicate to you. It's literally, I could scrape the entire Apple documentation for iOS, and his shit that he single-handedly writes as someone who's never seen. I was blind at birth, and he is documenting a touch-based operating system, and it is the best guide for actual people using a iOS device for the first time that I've ever seen. I came across it, was immediately like overwhelmed. I immediately get overwhelmed with like, and there's one interview about it, and it's from that blind and low vision podcast. I mentioned him on Twitter, and I was like I just happened to I added him, but I didn't address him. I was like, this is the most extensive iOS documentation I've ever seen. That's all I can say right now. And he replied to me, and literally his reply was, "So sorry that the 2021 version isn't out yet." And by the way, this is free, and literally the package is like 3 gigabytes of multimedia, and it's in different formats. Sorry, I should not get on the subject because it's been my thing right now where I just can't be constructive about it. But yeah. If that exists and I can come across it,
I need to follow you on Twitter as well.
Don't do that because I can't follow you back, or at least you can, but note that I can't follow you back, and I also do not
post much. I
do not editorialize my Twitter account at all anymore. If I ever did, it was just and like it's gonna be. I use a lot of like broken text, and a huge amount of my actual tweets are just detailing how negligent Twitter is as an organization, as a software development company specifically, not anything else. But yeah, I guess I don't know. I'm just nervous for you guys. That's just a position that is like a more consequential position for a software or for a company, for a technology company to be in than I honestly can think of anybody being in right now. Because it's notably because of that fucker Clubhouse, which just is the most unfortunate competitor to have. They're not even like one that you can be like, wow, you know, what they did was really profound, but you know, I think that we can make something that could actually bring more joy to people's lives. It's just like this place where that has an overwhelming usership for no fucking reason. Notably, I think the conversations that I see on there, the reason why I even say anything about it, I think it's harmful to these people's lives.
I was going to say the same thing. There's been a tide change in general from when I first just spent a bit of time on there research-wise to now when I go on there, there's a lot of toxic conversations happening.
Well, I didn't even mean toxic, but I just meant like bonkers or just like inherently unanswerable questions. That's what I'm really talking about. Yeah, I'm talking about like, again, it's Tuesday and on 2 p.m. and you're investing a lot into this conversation about, is abortion okay? Is abortion right or wrong? And like, maybe, I don't know, maybe there is a demographic of people that are just now getting onto social media and they really need to have that conversation. But I swear to God, there's nothing to be gained there. And the amount of I literally, whenever I have posted on Clubhouse, I think I've only run one room that had anyone come in. I found a group of, notably, it was like a group of first generation immigrants, most of them from Islamic families, who were all extremely successful young New York media people, literally doctors. And I live in the Midwest. I grew up here in a Protestant Christian family. I studied the Bible. I went to Christian school. If there, I would just go in and I'm just like, I know so little about Islam. And we actually got into I had a falling out with them because I asked so many I was so curious. And I literally was like, I want you guys to tell me if I'm ever ruining your night or something. But I thought I was funny. I don't know. And then one of them was like, "Are you fetishizing Islam people?" And I was like, you know what? If it sounds like that, maybe I should go. Anyway, that's my one Clubhouse experience, my one positive one. I'm worried about it because that's the amount of conversations that I see where people are just wasting their time. And I don't even if you take the crypto thing out of it, because I'm not an authority there and my personal feelings don't actually matter. I'm deeply worried that it's wasting people's time who, notably, unlike me, all of a sudden are finding themselves on social media, like in an era where none of the companies who run these services have been required to document them properly. So finding out how to do things is almost impossible. And maybe that's contributing to them getting, I don't know, but I'm really worried about it. And it was even on Discord, which I legitimately expected Discord stages to be like, I mean, honestly, if I were like out of all of them, I would be like, that's going to be the coolest one. No, it was literally, is God real? And I'm like, what? Like, how the fuck did this happen to Discord? Also, how the fuck did this happen to this many people in modern society? Like, that we're like, sorry, that's I'm glad that you have do not have that problem and probably never will. And that's probably
the moderation side of things, and this feeling that people have of like safety but also freedom to say what they like. I think audio is one of the hardest to police. What I would say is, again, like, I mean, I worked with our lawyers on this in the beginning. It's like, we can't protect against everything. All we can do is have like a really clear set of community guidelines and an escalation process. And like, up to now, there's been a few incidents, but honestly, like, I feel like we're just, it's hard to say at this stage, right, what will attract. I'm sure there will be a crowd to arrive that does turn that tide. I think it's just how you deal with it and how you keep it.
How much do you know about Periscope? How the way Periscope worked?
A little, not a lot. Like, there's a few other community members on Beams who used to use it. I did a couple of lives from my phone on Periscope as well at the time, but I wasn't really like into it.
Well, I was more popular on Periscope than I've ever been in ever will be on any other social platform combined. Not that I was like, but, and it's something that's my original pet peeve of this year. The whole reason that I'm writing about iOS was I knew that it was like the day was coming when Twitter was going to shut it down. I hadn't been on Periscope for a long time. But realizing Periscope was excellent at moderation. And let me just tell you, like, their system was text channels just had a fairly sophisticated, matching with list of slurs and stuff. But if the automated moderation of the text channels was confused about something, it would privately ask another user in the chat, in line in the chat before the message was posted, like, hey, I think this is fucking racist, but I don't know. It also could be like, I don't know, a hex code or something. Can you just tell me, like, you're a human being? Can you tell me? Then, so that was and then they implemented a system where you could, like, I could nominate a group of friends to moderate. And if they happen, it's not that they were called there every time I went live, but if they happen to be there, they would be asked first. And then they also had the ability to take explicit action. Periscope, like, I'm still working on it, and I do intend to do it. It's what writing a big thing about all the ways that Periscope was exactly what we claim to want from social media. And then maybe I will write about why it failed, because it was so good. It was inherently a filter bubble buster. It was inherently a positive experience. And because of that, it failed. And not just failed as a business, it also, I feel like I took it for granted, like tremendously.
Mhm.
Like okay, I guess I was popular enough that literally I ran out of money and I ran out of cigarettes, and I used to just after work just sit in my car and endlessly do Periscope broadcasts. And this one of my users, not one of my users, one of my followers, was just like, I will get you a carton, like right now, and then which so there was also like the community aspect. Anyway, the moderation tools, though, like you should look into the way that they did it because it's the most effective that I've ever seen in terms
Yeah.
of. I also did pop into random chats, and like that. The thing is, everyone else that I know, every time that I have a conversation about Periscope with someone I didn't know on there, at least, uh, they're like, oh, that was just a place with like child porn, and it was just conservatives, uh, you know, throwing slurs around. And I was like, that's, weird because I have used Periscope more than any other, and I never ever saw that once. So I don't know. There's something about my use of social media that's
Navigate.
I'm either excellent
Yeah.
at it, or it's just that I'm so privileged or something that it literally my somehow I've attained some level of exemption from any of the problems. But all I could, maybe either way I might be valuable. But have you had, you probably haven't had an actual controversy yet at all.
No, there's not been anything that's blown up at all. There's been a few things that had the potential to, and there's a couple of people that have come that I've been warned about that have maybe come from other platforms that are like pretty like they haven't contributed. They've just got accounts at the moment, which we keep an eye on. But yeah, like
If you
again,
guys were a nonprofit continuing this way, I would be so hopeful for you. If you were like a nonprofit who was, I don't know, and you would, that's the thing is because uh, that would be incredible. Like you would be in an incredible situation, and you just continuing that would be beneficial to you. I don't know. I like, I don't. People also are not willing to pay. Uh, I did a review of fucking Tweetbot earlier this year, and the amount of people that were outraged by paying $5 a year. Okay, and if you're using Tweetbot, you are using Twitter regularly. Okay, the amount that or the time in which that's going to take to pay off is, and like,
yeah,
and I would say this in different ways, and they'd be like, I just don't, and I'm like, so you're talking like you're old, because of subscription services, but you do remember paying for software, right? Like you do remember. I don't know. But anyway, actually, that's, yeah. You guys are at a quality level. I guess that's where I would want to go. Also, another thing that Periscope did, that I completely forgot about because Twitter has never implemented a payment system for it.
yeah.
Notably, the tip jar is just a list of hyperlinks to other payment services, and yet I noticed the other day actually something that really, and yet Twitter is finding itself empowered to suspend users because for soliciting things now, even though they have not handled any of the money. Anyway, Periscope literally implemented a like popular user rewards program that was, I guess it's, from what I understand, Twitch's, which I don't understand much about it, but where you buy coins and then can distribute them. Except it was much simpler, looked way better, and actually worked in a way that was so much easier to understand. It's the only one of those that I've ever come across where I could like divvy out. And I did because I actually made like, I don't know, it wasn't just cents, right? Like I had some sort of account balance with Periscope when it went down. So I don't know though, because that's the thing. I don't think anyone was ever making any.
No,
you just can't shoot. You cannot shoot for a service like that. There's a middle where instead of like the assumption is as soon as we implement payments, we're talking to people who do this for a living. Like, right, like use our app for a living, as opposed to doing it in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I mean, there's a new one that launched last week called Wisdom, a new app called Wisdom, and like their messaging is all around, you know, getting creators paid. Like this is what, I didn't even, David, I'm gonna have to go in a second. I gotta put my kids to bed.
Of course, I
No,
like. Thank you for talking to me, by the way.
No, this has been a pleasure. I'll just finish what I was saying, but yeah, like I basically feel like it's very much like some of these apps now, like coming straight out of the stables, the messaging is like, come here to make money from talking, or come here to make money from what you do. And like it's weird because that's never been the opening pitch for a lot of these apps previously. Like monetization is always in there. It's not been the thing that you sell, mainly because you can't guarantee or promise it. Like
it certainly couldn't have been the first thing that you built if you were doing that. It was like your sophomore. You know, as much as I despise like the amount of narrative around the personalities of tech, I think that might have to be the solution eventually for our shit. Yeah. But okay, what I was gonna say is I probably would like provide services of an employee that should be paid, but is uninterested, just because, like, literally contact me anytime you want, because not that I really have any more insight, but I don't know. It's a very interesting situation. And that's the thing. I don't actually want to write about it journalistically. I realized that I don't have to now because I just blog about things. And then so all the, but I think it still should be told for sure. I don't know. That's the thing, is like, the only other option is I'm doing a thing with Beams today. And then it's just, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I think like I'm really grateful to have had the time with you today to just hear you, like, just like you've got so much experience, so much knowledge that is like wider context around this stuff. And, you know, I really appreciate you being so like open with that as well. And I guess like I would just like to keep in touch and like,
of course, yeah. Note that you're providing a service because no one in my life is interested or able to have a conversation about this stuff, or nor would I put it on them. So you're actually doing a huge service for me. And like, it's kind of the point where even on social media, it's overlapping. But one thing I do want to do, and something I'm trying to pivot toward, last thing, is I really want to focus on being as useful as possible. So, like, I guess our further contact should include me sending you what I have on like the technical details of Periscope's documentation. I think I'm actually going to have to do some semi hacky shit, even though no one cares, just because proprietary services are bizarre. That's my advice to you guys. You should go open source and be the open source audio community, because
that's a
it's probably bullshit, except I don't know. Because then all of a sudden you're I don't know. To me, it seems to make sense, but I don't know anything about money. So thank you so much for your time, man. You go put your hits to bed. I will be around.
Yes. Like, even if it's not on Beams, like, I've got your email, like, let me know where you spend the most time as well.
There is never going to be an answer for that, other than maybe Mastodon and Twitter, but like, I don't know I still don't know how to communicate with people, even though I've been trying to do so my whole life. You guys should make a Discord or actually what you really should do is make a Telegram channel, except that would overlap because you can share audio on Telegram. So
I guess back channel is, we do need a back channel that's off platform as well. I'll
figure that out. Everyone else is doing discourse.
Okay. All right.
It's just forms.
Let me figure that out. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, man. You have a good night, okay?
Thank you so much. See you soon. Bye.
Yep. Bye.